I know that it's much more than just the financial. It's also the mental and social. Because if you have somebody that's financially prepared for retirement, but they're not mentally or socially prepared, what's going to end up happening is they're going to retire, and 6 months later, they're going to be working again.
Lawrence Sprung.
Lawrence Sprung.
Lawrence Sprung.
Lawrence Sprung,
Who is the Mitlin Financial founder.
wealth advisor.
Author of Financial Planning Made Personal and
Named a top 100 advisor by Investopedia.
It's very important to have the right mindset when talking about planning your future, saving, etc. It's important to do that and understand that, yeah, money can be evil, to your point, in certain situations with the poor mindset, but with the right mindset, it can be a tool that impacts you and your family for generations to come in a positive way.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Welcome to the High Performance CEO Show, your exclusive insight into the strategies and success habits of the world's top CEOs. I'm your host, Sebastian Schieke, entrepreneur, mentor, and business angel. Prepare to grow your business, enhance your leadership skills, and thrive in today's world. Let's dive in. Today I'm talking to Larry Sprung, and Larry is a financial advisor. He's the founder of Mitlin Financial Inc. and he is an open book when it comes to financial advice. We will talk a lot about personal financial planning today and what we need to focus on, things we don't learn in school, things we basically have to educate ourselves or work with people like Larry. Larry, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Sebastian. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's amazing. And I haven't spoken for a while about wealth and wealth planning. Although this is such an important topic, because as we already talked about in our pre-call before this interview, schools and the school system, they don't teach financial literacy. Actually, a very important topic in this complex world. I mean, this is still not being taught, and this is why companies like Mitlin Financial exist, who help people in this space. So what is the biggest challenge people have when it comes to financial planning?
Yeah, thank you for that. And I think, I speak predominantly for here in the States. I'm located in New York, on Long Island, and I've been in the profession for 20 plus years, and I've heard financial literacy should be, taken in under the schools, and, it just hasn't happened. So I think one of the biggest challenges are, the fact that, we all know it's important. We all know that this is something that we should be addressing and taking a look at. But what ends up happening is it ends up getting pushed to the side because it consists of a lot of uncomfortable conversations a lot of times, and, there are folks in my profession that I think don't really think outside of the numbers. They become very number driven, which overwhelms people. And that was really one of the main drivers of me writing my book, Financial Planning Made Personal, because I truly believe that financial planning is personal. And the subheading is, what did you do today that brought you joy? So I think you have to find joy in the process.
Yeah, I love this.
And a lot of people don't find joy in this process. So I think what we have to do is work with families in a way that is not talking to them or working with them in the sense of trying to figure out about what things they should be cutting out in order to save, because I think that's the perception, right? If I go to a financial planner or I put a financial plan together, I'm going to have to give things
Yes,
up
I don't want this.
in order to, right, in order to save for my financial future. And I don't want to go through that pain. And what we do here is we take a little bit different stance, as the title of the book says, in terms of it's not about making it a painful experience. It's about figuring out a way that's personal to you, that's going to allow you to save for your future, but at the same time, enjoy the process along the way. There are a lot of people in my profession that talk about, that expense shame, like, hey, if you didn't go buy a $4 cup of coffee every day,
Oh, yes.
and you put that money in an account and you invest
After 500 years, you can
for $10, that's crazy. Listen, I enjoy those coffees.
Yeah, me too.
I get a lot of joy out of it. And as long as you have a plan in place that supports your ability to afford that, enjoy the cup of coffee. Plan for the trip,
Yeah.
but just make sure it's in your budget. So it really comes down to figuring out a way to make it an enjoyable process that actually is going to be beneficial to you and your family at the end of the day, and not a painful process that's going to have you walking away saying, I am not giving this stuff up for my future. And it doesn't have to be that way. There's a way to satisfy both those needs, your current needs, as well as those in the future.
And this is exactly the point. I mean, we only have one life, yeah? And why do we need to sacrifice our life that we can enjoy our retirement at, I mean, no one knows if you reach your retirement age. I mean, everything can happen, yeah? And then you sacrifice your life and you don't go and have this coffee at whatever chain for $4 or $5 because, yeah, you might need the money later on when you're 70 or 80 and then, you're either gone or maybe you can't enjoy your life anymore because you have other conditions. So I love this process and this concept of make it the progress enjoyable. Have fun during your journey while still preparing, for retirement and for time when you don't have an active income.
And just, Sebastian, to give you some background about, why I'm so passionate about this, to your point, we don't know how long we're going to live. We only have this one life. We only have this, we don't know how long that's going to be. And as somebody, personally has experienced loss at an early age, my mom was diagnosed with cancer in her 30s and passed away at the age of 47. We lost my brother-in-law at the age of 27. He had mental illness and died by suicide. So you don't know. So there is that fine line that, you do, there has to be some kind of sacrifice for later on, but you also have to enjoy the here and now and enjoy the process of getting there. And it has to be about that. And to your point about retirement, I think retirement is a ludicrous concept, right? It's really something that was really manufactured many, many years ago when people's life expectancies were in their 30s, 40s, 50s, maybe even 60s, right? This whole idea now, today, when we're living into our 70s, 80s, 90s, and even 100, to go work, go through your education and then work for 30, 40, 50 years in a position for one day, hopefully pumping the brakes and stopping and then all of a sudden enjoying life. What happens if you don't make it there? Why not enjoy that whole 30 to 40 year period? I don't think retirement has to be this concept where retirement equals joy. I think joy should be all along the way. And if you have a goal or an aspiration for retirement, then great. You have to make sure that you're prepared for that as well.
I like this concept. So can you share a few tangible tips? What are you looking at when you work with your customers? What do they typically implement in order to prepare for the future, so to say?
Yeah, so the families we serve, really we have a very systematized process that we bring them through. And essentially, it entails looking at where they are today financially, right? Where their income's coming from, what expenses are going out, and then also trying to figure out what their goals are and where they want to be in the future, whether that be, looking to buy their first home, whether it be starting a family and having children, whether that be looking at retirement some point in the future, starting a job, starting a business. We need to know all that, all right? And what we want to do is start formulating a baseline for what their financial situation looks like today and modeling that in the future. And then figuring out ways and decisions that are going to need to be made along the way to start and continue to move them along that continuum to reaching their financial goals and keeping them on the path. And every family is different, right? In terms of looking where they are and where they want to be, those are going to be very personal to them. And how we get from point A to point B is going to be very personal to them. So we want to look at that and start getting that framework for the plan. As far as like the money and working towards those goals, a couple of key tangible takeaways are you have to start early. It's a little bit counterproductive because When you talk to people who have just got out of university or school and you try to impart upon them either previous to that or shortly thereafter to start saving money, their initial inclination is, well, I don't make that much money. How do I put money away? And the reality is they will be so much better off by starting early and utilizing what we call the eighth wonder of the world, which is compound interest, and starting early and saving even a small amount will be extremely helpful to them growing their assets over time. And what ultimately happens is, although they're not making the highest income they'll ever make, as they start making a higher income, they're most likely going to have more responsibilities pulling at that higher income and be in an even lesser position to invest or put money away for their financial future. Maybe they have a house and a mortgage. Maybe they have a family and kids and their education. Maybe they're looking to buy a second home. So it gets complicated. So really the importance of starting early. And I'll share with you something that I had in my book, which I'll just pull out here. And this just, is an example of starting early. So if you start at the age of 20 and you start putting $1,000 a year away, okay, and just raise that by $200 every year. So year one, 1,000, year two, 1,200, 400, etc., through the age of 45. So you do that for 25 years. At the age of 45, the maximum you're putting away that year is $6,000.
Should be doable, no?
Right. It's starting at 1,000, going to 6,000, and just using an easy number, if you get a 10% rate of return, at the age of 65, your investment would be worth over $2 million. You would have put in only 91,000, and that would have grown to 2 million because of that compounding effect. Okay. Contrast that to somebody who starts at the age of 45, starts investing. They start investing 6,000, which is the most the 20-year-old ever put in, right? So they start at 6,000, raise it by 1,000 every year until the age of 65. At 65, they're putting in 26,000 that year. Their account value with the same return would only be 895,000, less than half. And they would have put in $336,000, 4 times the amount that 20-year-old started at. That's the benefit of starting early. And if you do that, you're going to put you and your family in a great position.
So being over 45, I'm lost now, yeah? I'm just kidding.
Listen, you just got to start now. Start right away, right? The biggest takeaway is if you're not 20 and whatever age you are and you're not on this path, start today. Don't let another day go by, and start saving for your future, but not at the full expense of today's joy. Make sure you can afford putting those monies away, and plan for it.
Exactly. Wow. Yeah, these numbers are always mind-blowing, yeah, when you look at them and when you see due to interest and accumulation, you can really build a fortune, no?
You just got to start early.
Yeah, you gotta
be methodical.
Gotta start early. When it comes to money and wealth, I would say you have to do a lot of mind work with the people, right? I mean, working with limiting beliefs and giving them the right identity, because, hey, I mean, and you see sometimes people win in the lottery, they make $1 million or more, and then after a couple of years, they are back to where they've started, because they didn't change their identity. I always say, hey, if you want to be a millionaire, you have to become a millionaire, but not only with the money, you have to become a millionaire with your identity. So what are typical, I would say limiting beliefs or thoughts people or beliefs people have that hold them back to save, to build up a fortune, to really also enjoy having money? Because I also know a lot of people who say, having money is bad because they associate money with something negative or with people they don't like, and though this limiting beliefs often works against their own savings, and they do everything to get rid of the money.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, those are, definitely mindset is of utmost importance, right? You have to have the right mindset. And if you look at people's relationships with money, typically, if you look at their parents and how, or whoever raised them and what their relationship was with money, typically that carries through. So if the family was very frugal and saved consistently, a lot of times, the kids and grandkids who grow up in that household and in that environment have similar beliefs. If you have a situation, for example, I look at my grandmother. My grandmother was born in the heart of the Depression. Unfortunately, we lost her several years ago, right before her 90th birthday. But she, we could have shown her bank account. She didn't have a lot of money, but if we showed her bank account and we showed that she had $1 million in a savings account, she still would not have felt comfortable because of the environment she had grown up in. So, a lot of that has to do with that. And you have to definitely work on your mindset in order to attract, retain, and grow your wealth. If you don't have the right mindset, like you suggested earlier with like the lottery winner or the athlete who signs the big contract, you have to, insulate yourself, align yourself with key stakeholders that have your best interests that will help educate you and help work on that mindset. And, we talk a lot about a three-legged stool with our families, and that is, physical health, mental health, and financial health. They're very intertwined and interrelated. And if you're suffering in one of those areas, if you have poor physical health, you're not going to be thinking about, you're probably going to have poor mental health as well. And it may be difficult for you to think about saving money, right? If you have bad financial health, you may have an impact on your mental health and or your physical health. So they're all very interrelated. So it's important that, if you don't have the right mindset, that we have to work with the families and educate them on what the benefits are and how to approach it with the proper mindset. And, what we're trying to do is not only with the families, the matriarchs and the patriarchs of the families we're working with, but we're also doing that with their kids and grandkids because maybe they did not have the right mindset, but now they do because of the conversations we've had with them over the years. And now it's important that if the kids were exposed to that previous poor mindset, we want to get them on the right path so that it will impact them and their family for generations to come. So it's very important to have the right mindset when talking about planning your future, saving, etc. It's important to do that and understand that, money can be evil, to your point, in certain situations with a poor mindset. But with the right mindset, it can be a tool that impacts you and your family for generations to come in a positive way.
And I especially like the fact that you are teaching kids because, they have everything in front of them. They can start early with their savings, even if they put away, $5 a month for a quarter, it shows them that this is going to build something up in the future.
I'll share this with you, and I shared this in my book, with my kids at a very early age, and I don't have an affiliate link or anything like this. You could go on any of the main websites and find this. There's a bank out there, like a piggy bank, but it's different than the traditional piggy bank where it has one slot. You put the change or the cash in there. It has 3 slots, which is something we use with our kids. And the 3 slots were spend, save, and charity. And it's a really good educational tool to show your children as they get money, whether it's through allowance or birthday gifts, that, they shouldn't always just think about spending the money. There should be part of it that's spent, part that they should get enjoyment out of, like we've been talking about so far. They should also save some of that for their future, for either a special purchase or something in their future. And they should always remember charity and being charitable because there's some good benefits and learning opportunities by doing that. And, to our point earlier about the education system, we talk with families all the time that you cannot rely on the education system to teach your children this. If you're in a position to do it, you have to do it. If you're not in a position to do it and you have an advisor, close family member, somebody that, you really know, like, and trust that has the expertise to help, you have to start educating your family as early as possible. And that piggy bank is one of those things that can really help early on and teach the kids and get them in that right mindset so that as they get older, they're more prepared for planning for their future.
Oh, I like this concept. We'll definitely look it up and see if I can get a copy, one of those piggy banks from
There are plenty of them.
for my kids. Yeah, you mentioned your book. Want to share a bit more about your book, the target audience, and what you cover in your application?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, the book's name is Financial Planning Made Personal, Amazon best-selling author, and the subtitle is What did you do today that brought you joy? Because we want to focus it on joy. So really, the book covers a bit about me personally and my story about why I do what I do and how I got in the profession and why I'm so passionate about the profession. And then I talk about some of the myths that I think people, think about when they think about the profession, and planning being painful, as we've talked about, and it doesn't have to be, and, guiding people on how to find potentially the right advisor or potentially do things on their own if they think that they have enough of a skill set to do that. So it's really, for folks that either are investing, thinking about investing, it just gives them a different perspective that I don't think a lot of authors or people in my profession have written about. And, one of the things that I make very clear is, there are a lot of folks in the media that have written books on TV that, use these very broad rules of thumb that say, if you do this, this is what will happen, or you should do this. And, and in terms of everybody should do this, or everybody should do that. And that's not the case. Financial planning is very personal. What works for you, Sebastian, and your family may not work for mine. So it's important to understand what's your personal goals and objectives and tailoring your financial planning to those personal goals and objectives. So that's really what the framework of the book is all about.
Looking at the current situation in the world, is kind of big uncertainty, inflation. How do most people react to what's happening at the moment? What is the normal strategy of someone who's not working with you?
Yeah, I think the biggest issue today, right? I know we talk about uncertainty, but if you look at any period in history, if you put that period under a microscope, there was a tremendous amount of uncertainty in all those periods, okay? I don't think anything is much different today than it has been at any other point in history. The difference is we're in a unique position where everything is reported on 24/7. Everything is talked about and available 24/7. So we're inundated with it. So I think one of the biggest issues, or one of the biggest challenges, is not inundating yourself with all this noise, because it's paralyzing, right? So what we do and how we insulate our families are, we kind of take that off their shoulders. We have a very intimate understanding of what their goals and objectives are. We're handling the investment, portfolio management, and management of other areas of their financial life, making sure that their taxes are done properly, their estate's in order, making sure they're covered on all those bases. And we're alleviating that so they have less of a reliance on, turning on the news and understanding and listening to this and taking it in. We tell the families we work with, turn off all that noise. We'll report to you if there's something, an event that you need to know about. It'll be in our newsletter. We'll definitely send out correspondence to you, but we want to alleviate you of that burden. And, one of the biggest things, of feedback we get from the families are, I don't worry about what's going on in the world. I mean, they have an understanding, they want to know, but they don't really worry about it in terms of their financial situation, because they know, because of our proactive communication, they know that we're on top of things. And if there was an issue, they'd hear about it from us. So that is, huge value add for us. And, unlike other quote unquote financial advisors, we're not just investment management people. So we're not just managing the assets. We're actually managing a lot of their life events, life situations. We're communicating with their attorney to make sure that their estate plans are in order. Like I said, tax planning with them, making sure all those other areas. We've had conversations, had one yesterday, families looking to buy a car. What's the best way to, purchase or lease? We're having those conversations. So it's much greater than that. And it really doesn't matter what's happening in the world today. It matters if the family is getting closer to or away from their goals and objectives. And our goal is to keep working them towards those goals and objectives.
So your typical client is basically family or family business, and you support them in the basically very broad bandwidth of services around finances, investing, and everything related to money, basically. You also mentioned that you are very passionate about mental health. And before we started the interview, we discussed, okay, shall we talk about financial wealth? And you mentioned, mental health is also one of your major interests. So you obviously integrate mental health advice into your advisory, into your business. Do you also act as a mental health coach, advisor outside of Mitlin Financial?
Yeah, so good question. So, my affinity towards mental health is following the loss of my brother-in-law to suicide. I became very involved in that space, and I'm not a clinician or a practitioner, but it's very tied into financial health and wealth, right? I did sit on the national board for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention for about 12, 13 years, which I rolled off the board a couple of years ago, but I still sit on their investment and finance committee. So I'm still involved heavily in the organization. But it also plays into what we do every day with the families that we work with, right? Because, if you think about it, for a family, if you're thinking about retirement, a lot of advisors out there, when they're working with a family who's thinking about retiring down the road, it becomes a very numerical conversation. It's about, hey, do you have enough money to do that? And, being the work that I've done before in mental health space, I know that it's much more than just the financial. It's also the mental and social, right? Because if you have somebody that's financially prepared for retirement, but they're not mentally or socially prepared, what's going to end up happening is they're going to retire, and 6 months later, they're going to be working again. Not because they need the money. I know that, there's a lot of studies out there that'll lead you to believe that people are working longer and later in life because they need the money. And there certainly are people that applies to. And, I don't mitigate that, but there are a lot of people who aren't prepared to retire and end up going back to work. So a lot of times we'll talk with the families that if we know they're 5, 10, 15 years away from a time that they're looking to slow down, we'll start talking to them about, well, okay, are you mentally prepared to start slowing down? What's your plan? Are you going to go from 100 miles an hour to 0, or are you going to start incrementally slowing down that work? What are you going to be filling that time with, right? Are you going to be reading? Are you going to be volunteering for a charity? Are you going to be doing part-time work? Because the last thing people want to do is retire and then sit on the couch for 40 hours a week watching TV. I don't know anybody who really enjoys that. But you don't want to do that because that's going to have an effect on you. So we talk to them and have them start thinking about those things. And I talk about it in the book as well. We have them start thinking about these things well in advance, because it's not just about the money. The money is one component, but you also have to be mentally and socially prepared for that retirement. And we have families that we work with that are very prepared. They retire, they're playing golf 4 days a week, they're volunteering. They're almost busier today than when they were working. And then we have others that, were not or are not as prepared because they haven't thought about it, prior to meeting us. And they retire, and 6 months later, they're working basically full time again. Again, not because they need the money, but they just didn't have that drive anymore. They didn't have that motivation every morning when they woke up. So, it's a tough thing, but it's a very important piece. It's not just about the money. It's also about that mental and social preparation for whatever your financial future is going to be, or whatever you want it to look like.
Definitely. I mean, you need a plan for your retirement. I know so many people who really work their ass off their whole life, and then only to reach the point that, oh no, now I'm retired. And then they really fall into a big hole because they miss all their social environment, they miss being needed and being contributing to a greater good, and
a lot of their relationships are rooted in that old employment, and then they leave. They don't have a social calendar anymore because they're not going out after work or on the weekends with the spouses. It becomes a very big challenge.
It does. Yeah, as you said, it all mends into mental health. And I actually also see, unfortunately, a couple of people who are so caught up in their daily job, they don't really see anything outside of their work and counting the months until they retire. And I have one person I know, and I really worry about this person, but it's very hard to reach them. It's very hard to get them to listen to you and get them to open up to understand that they should look at other things than work, and that if they reach their retirement in 2 or 3 years, it wouldn't do them any good, because they have bigger problems coming up.
Yeah, it's tough. You have to keep that in mind, and what I would suggest is definitely reach out to them. Definitely have that conversation. You never know. Planting that seed might be hugely beneficial. But I would never want to be in a job or a role or a profession where I'm counting down the days to retiring, because that to me is an indication that I should be doing something else. Because what I do every day, it does not feel like work to me. I enjoy working with families and helping them. It really feels like we're having an impact each and every day. So I think that's a tough spot to be in. Now, there are certainly people out there that don't have the freedom and flexibility to look for other employment. But we talk about maybe you look at starting a side gig, something that you can do while you're still working.
Exactly.
Time, that you really is based upon something you enjoy, and start working and building up on that, so that as you start leaving the profession you're in, you start transitioning there. And then the other thing I would say is, when I go on shows or I meet people that I do in the community, and they say, "Oh, hey, tell me about yourself. Who are you? What do you do?" I always start out by saying I'm a husband to Denise. We've been married for 23 years. This is November. I'm a dad to Zach and Jeremy. I'm a huge hockey fan. I enjoy playing golf with my kids, and I happen to be in wealth management. And the reason why I do that is I don't want to be defined by what I do for a living. That's just one part of what I do.
Yeah.
I want to be known as a husband, a father, a good member, a good standing member of the community, up and beyond everything else. I just happen to be in the profession that I'm in. I don't want that to define me, and I think too many of us take that label and use it as our defining label, and that's what makes that whole retirement or slowing down even that much more difficult.
Love this concept. I spent a couple of months in New Zealand, and they have a similar way of looking at things. Job is sort of second or third grade. They see themselves as family members. They do a lot of sport, they enjoy their life while still running their business, but this is not number one. And they tend to be much more happier than many people we meet in the Western world. Yeah, so there is something about it. Hey, Larry, it's amazing talking with you. Is there anything else you would like to share with the audience before we wrap up? Anything you would like to touch on? Anything we missed?
I think we did a great job, Sebastian, covering all the highlights. I appreciate the time and the ability to talk about what I'm doing. Hopefully, it inspires some of your listeners. If they have an interest in checking out the book, they could go to Financial Planning Made Personal. It's accessible there. And then, if they want to learn more about mindset, mental health, entrepreneurism, I also have a podcast called the Mitlin Money Mindset, which we release every Wednesday, a new show, on all the platforms where you can consume that content. So, if they want to learn more about me, those are probably the two best places for them to do that.
Love it. We will share the show notes. I will definitely get a copy of the book, maybe even as a present for my kids. And I thank you so much for your time. Amazing conversation. And lucky families you work with. I can say. Thanks, Larry.
Thank you, Sebastian. Yeah, enjoy the day.
You too.